Have you ever wondered how to really sound like a native English speaker? Like really blend in and not feel self-conscious? I bet it's a question that's crossed your mind if you're listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of English learners, that's the ultimate goal, right? To not just speak, but to sound natural and connect with people on that deeper level.
Exactly. But sometimes that goal can feel so far away.
Yeah.
Like, is it even possible to make that kind of progress without spending years and years living in an English-speaking country?
I think that's where a lot of people get discouraged. They get caught up in this idea of the perfect native speaker, and it can feel really overwhelming.
Right, like there's this one specific way to sound, and if you don't nail it, you're not really speaking real English.
And that's just not true at all. I mean, think about it. Someone from London sounds totally different from someone in Texas or Australia or South Africa. There's so much variation, even among native speakers.
Absolutely. So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack all of that. We're going to explore the psychology of language learning, look at some fascinating neuroscience, and even share some real-life stories to show you that it's totally possible to make a huge leap forward in how you sound, even in a relatively short amount of time.
That's right. And to be clear, we're not talking about perfectly mimicking one specific accent. There is no single native way to sound. We're talking about finding your own voice in English and sounding clear, confident, and natural.
Exactly. It's about moving away from that feeling of constantly translating in your head and starting to think and feel in English.
And one of the things that can really hold people back is this myth of the native speaker, this idea that there's one correct way to pronounce things, one right accent, and if you don't have it, you're somehow less fluent.
So we're ditching that myth right now
Yeah.
because it's simply not true. It actually prevents people from progressing because they feel inadequate, like they'll never measure up.
Exactly. When you let go of that idea, you free yourself to focus on what really matters, communication. And, when we talk about wanting to sound like a native speaker, what we often mean is wanting to sound more fluent and confident.
Yeah, like you're not struggling to find the words or worrying about making mistakes. You just speak.
And, we've seen some incredible examples of people who have made remarkable progress in a really short amount of time. Like, take Diego from Colombia, for example. His grammar was impeccable, and he had a huge vocabulary. But he still felt self-conscious when he spoke English. He felt like he was performing, rather than genuinely expressing himself.
It's like he knew the language, but it wasn't flowing naturally. I know that feeling.
Absolutely. But get this. Within just 30 days, using some of the techniques we're going to talk about in this deep dive, Diego went through a complete transformation. His colleagues and his boss even commented on how much more confident and fluent he sounded.
Wow, that's inspiring. So it sounds like this shift is possible. But what's actually happening in our brains that allows for this kind of change? What makes it possible to go from feeling self-conscious to sounding more native-like?
Well, traditional language learning focuses a lot on grammar rules and vocabulary, which is definitely important, but it sometimes neglects a key ingredient, the psychological aspect.
Okay, the psychology of language learning. Tell me more.
It's about shifting your identity as a speaker. See, when we speak a second language, we can get stuck in this translator mode, constantly decoding from our native language and encoding into English.
Right, it's like our brain is working overtime.
Exactly. But the key to achieving a more natural, fluent sound is to activate a different part of the brain,
Ooh, interesting. Which part?
the mirror neuron system.
Mirror neurons. Those are the ones that fire when we watch someone else do something and we feel like we're doing it ourselves, right?
You got it. Like when you see someone yawn and you suddenly feel the urge to yawn too, or when you watch someone get hurt and you wince as if it happened to you.
Okay, yeah, I know what you mean. But how do mirror neurons help us sound more native-like?
Well, it turns out that mimicry plays a huge role in language learning. And mirror neurons are what allow us to mimic the sounds, rhythms, and even the emotions of the language we're exposed to.
So the more we listen to and try to copy native speakers, the more our brains are wiring themselves to speak like them.
Exactly. It's not just about understanding the words, it's about absorbing the subtle nuances of how those words are spoken.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together. So we need to shift our mindset, ditch that native speaker myth, and actively engage our mirror neurons by mimicking native speakers. But how do we put this into practice?
All right, let's get practical. We've put together a kind of roadmap, a potential 30-day plan to help you make noticeable progress in how you sound. Think of it as a challenge to boost your English fluency.
I love a good challenge.
Okay.
Break it down for us. What does this 30-day plan involve?
Okay, so the first phase from days 1 to 7 we call tune your ear. This is all about training your brain to hear English with greater sensitivity to its nuances.
Tune your ear. I like that. So what do we actually do during this phase?
It's all about focused listening. Dedicate at least 30 minutes each day to listening to authentic English content. Podcasts, interviews, audiobooks, anything where you're hearing real people speak naturally.
And we're not just listening passively in the background.
Right. It needs to be active listening. Pick one or two speakers whose voices you really like, almost like they're your English sound guides, and pay close attention to their pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm.
So really trying to absorb the way they're speaking, almost like soaking it in.
Exactly. And don't worry about understanding every single word. Just try to follow the overall flow and mimic their tone and rhythm in your head. Your brain will start to pick up on those patterns.
Got it. Active listening with a focus on specific speakers to train our ears. What about week 2?
Phase 2, from days 8 to 14, we call Echo the Flow. This is where we start working on our pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation.
Echo the flow sounds intriguing. What does that involve?
This is where the shadowing technique comes in.
Shadowing. Remind me what that is.
You listen to a short phrase or sentence from one of your chosen English sound guides. Then you pause the recording and immediately repeat it aloud, trying to match their pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm as closely as possible.
Oh, right, like you're their shadow, echoing their voice. And this helps us with what exactly?
This trains your mouth muscles to produce the sounds of English more naturally and helps you internalize the rhythm and intonation patterns of the language. It's all about building that muscle memory.
So it's like a workout for our speech organs.
Exactly. And a really important tip for this phase is to record yourself while you're shadowing. Then compare your recording to the original. This will help you pinpoint areas where you might need to adjust your pronunciation or intonation. Don't be afraid to hear your own voice. It's super helpful.
I can see how that would be really useful. And anything else to focus on during this week of shadowing?
Yes, while it's important to work on clear pronunciation of individual sounds, during this phase, I would say really focus on your intonation. You know, how your voice rises and falls when you speak.
Intonation, right? Because sometimes it's not just what you say, but how you say it that conveys the meaning.
Exactly. In fact, research shows that good intonation can sometimes be even more important for comprehension than perfect grammar. It's what gives your speech that natural flow and helps people understand you better.
Okay, got it. Focusing on intonation during the shadowing practice. Makes sense. All right, so we've tuned our ears. We've been shadowing like pros. What's next in this 30-day challenge?
The third week, days 15 to 21, is all about tackling a major obstacle for many language learners: the fear of speaking.
Oh, the dreaded fear of making mistakes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that can be a real confidence killer.
absolutely. So this phase is called Confidence Catalyst. The goal is to start rewiring that fear response and get comfortable with speaking out loud.
I'm all for that. How do we do it?
One of the simplest things you can do is just start talking to yourself in English, even if it feels silly at first. Narrate your day, describe what you see, have imaginary conversations, whatever comes to mind.
So just getting those words flowing out of our mouths without worrying about being judged.
Exactly.
Right.
And when you're ready to level up, try finding some low-stakes opportunities to practice with others. There are tons of online language exchange platforms and apps where you can connect with people from all over the world who are also learning English.
Those can be a great way to practice in a supportive environment. Any other confidence-boosting tips for this week?
Definitely. Choose a random topic each day and speak about it for a full 2 minutes without stopping. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes, just keep talking. This helps build fluency and reduces that tendency to overthink every word.
Wow, 2 minutes straight, huh? That sounds like a good challenge.
It is. And another powerful technique is to practice speaking in front of a mirror. It might feel a little awkward at first, but it helps you get used to seeing yourself as an English speaker and builds confidence.
Interesting, like you're having a conversation with your English-speaking self.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay, so we've spent 3 weeks fine-tuning our listening, practicing our pronunciation, and building our confidence. What about the final stretch, days 22 through 30?
This is where we put it all together and make English a part of our everyday lives. We call it immerse and express.
Immerse and express. So even if we're not living in an English-speaking country, we're going to create that immersive environment around us.
Exactly. Start small. Change the language settings on your phone and computer to English. It's a simple change that exposes you to the language constantly.
Easy enough. What else?
Start narrating your day in English, even just silently to yourself. So instead of thinking, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? In your native language, you think it in English. It's like creating a constant stream of English input in your mind.
Training our brains to think in English. I dig it.
Sure.
Any other challenges for this final phase?
Yes. For a more advanced practice, try reading a short article or news piece aloud each day. Focus on reading it naturally and smoothly, like you're telling someone a story, rather than getting hung up on pronouncing every word perfectly.
And I remember you mentioned a kind of daily mini challenge for this final week.
Yes. For this final week, try recording a short 60-second video of yourself speaking in English every day. Talk about anything you want, your day, your plans, your
Like
thoughts.
a video diary in English.
Exactly. It's a fun way to practice and track your progress. At the end of the 30 days, compare your first video to your last. You'll be amazed at the difference.
I bet. So that's the 30-day roadmap. Tune your ear, echo the flow, confidence catalyst, and immerse and express. It's a fantastic combination of active listening, focused practice, and creating an immersive English environment.
Exactly. And something that really resonates with me is this idea that you are what you practice.
Ooh, I like that. What do you mean by that?
Well, language isn't just a tool for communication. It's a part of who we are. Every time you speak English, you're shaping your identity as an English speaker. You're embodying that fluency and confidence.
That's a powerful thought. So it's not just about learning a language, it's about becoming the kind of person who speaks that language.
Precisely. And here's another fascinating fact from neuroscience. Our brains don't actually distinguish very well between imagined experiences and real ones. So if you consistently imagine yourself speaking English fluently and confidently, your brain starts to believe it and your actions will follow.
That's so cool. Like if we can see it in our minds, we can make it happen in reality.
Exactly. So to circle back to our initial question, is it really possible to sound more like a native speaker in 30 days? I would say absolutely. If by sounding like a native speaker, we mean speaking with confidence, clarity, and connecting with people authentically. It's not about achieving some perfect accent. It's about finding your own voice in English.
That's such an important distinction. So it's not about perfection, it's about progress, and it's definitely achievable.
And remember, fluency isn't a destination, it's a habit. The more you practice, the more natural it will become. And it's more than just sounding good. The act of speaking itself shapes you, molds your thoughts, and ultimately influences who you become.
That idea of practice shaping who we are is so powerful. And that neuroscience tidbit about the brain believing our imagined experiences is a game changer. It really highlights the importance of visualizing ourselves as confident English speakers.
Absolutely. Your brain is incredibly powerful, and the more you use it to your advantage, the more progress you'll make.
So the bottom line is, don't get caught up in the myth of the perfect native speaker. Focus on consistent effort, practice, and visualizing yourself as a confident English speaker. Keep showing up, keep speaking, and most importantly, enjoy the journey.
That's the key. Embrace the process, and you'll be amazed at how much you can achieve.
I know I learned a ton today, and I hope everyone listening did too. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of English fluency.
It was my pleasure. Keep practicing, and remember, your voice matters.
That's it for this episode, folks. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Until then, keep speaking and keep growing.